Okay, it appears that YouTube seems to think that, legally speaking, it can modify what we're allowed to think and what we're allowed to say. YouTube needs to look into something called bonded slavery. It's a federal statute here in Australia, and corporations can't tell you what to do. They can't tell you what to do. They can't tell you what to think. If they're saying that a telecommunications device is suddenly something called social media, then they need to go and look up what the definition of a society is, because a telecommunications device is not social media. If someone doesn't like what I post on Facebook, they block me and they never see it ever again. But for some reason, Facebook has this mechanism where they can bar you from transmitting for 30 days. No one has that right over a corporation, right? And if you look at what a sole corporation is, it effectively has the right to not have its business interfered with by another business. And if you actually look that up, it's considered a human rights violation. So that gives you an idea when people vomit up the word human rights violations, they really are talking outside of their hat. The idea that YouTube, a fucking American company, can tell us what we can post here in Australia. If they've got a problem what's said here in Australia, at the very most they can do is stop it from being transmitted in America, but that's only after a court case. You can't just go and murder someone because he's fucking gone out and murdered someone. You have to take him to court, prove he's been murdered someone, and then if he signed a contract with the state, then you put him to death in that state, which is what they do in America all the time, and they get it wrong so many times. Not funny. So it's a bit dramatic, but that's what I'm trying to say. So this doesn't seem to get pulled off what I'm about to talk about now, but they are restricting it. We know they are restricting it. If I told someone that the A.T.O is not a legal entity, if I told someone that the entity calling itself the government is actually just a private company in America and they tricked everyone into signing up to it, they'd be fucking rioting in the streets. But because you have a system where they blanket you with radiation. Now, this green area isn't the grass. This green area is 4G, right? It alters, and people will say, "Oh, well, yes, we need it." We don't need it at all. We don't need 4G. We don't need 2G. We only need 1G. 1G, the old analog system, is basically the world's best telecommunication system, and they took it off you and they sold it to fucking industry. Like, the truck drivers can sit there and watch their truck travelling along at 90 k's an hour and push a button and go, "Slow down, Fred." There's no dial tone, there's no nothing. He just pushes the button and he says, "Slow down, Fred, you're doing 92 kilometres an hour in my truck that's worth $500,000 and the load on the back's worth $300 million. Slow down." Say he's got an autoclave. There's a company up in Coffs Harbour, and they make autoclaves that are worth $300 million, and they're transporting them on these highways, and it's you'll see it on heavy haulage Australia, right? So that's the old analog system. That's what you gave away to your system. You paid to develop it, and then the government said, "Oh no, we're going to turn it off." They didn't turn it off. They just sold it to industry, and you didn't get a cent out of it. Your taxpayers paid, your tax dollars paid for it, but you didn't get anything. So now I'm going to start exposing the lie. This is about the A.T.O. Okay, so the A.T.O is a creation of this corporation operating out of America. This is not government, right? Government is illegal. Okay, government is illegal. The definition: government, yeah, right? Government. I won't explain the end because you won't want to get it, and people will just go, "Oh, you just fuck." So, but essentially, it's G-O-V-E-R-S-I-O-N. Yeah. So every word is a compound of other words. So you don't write. You want to make a word to discover to write tripping over the fence. It'll be T-O-F. Yeah. So toff. Yeah. Oh, you had a toff. Oh, you tripped over the fence. I'm just giving you an example. So the government is go, version than mine. Yeah, version means to change, goes to go, and govern comes from governator, which is the helmsman on the ship, right? So this essentially is a privately owned corporation. It's not me saying it. It's Treasury, right? This is Treasury Australia, right? It's foreign owned. It's privately owned from another country. Documents related to the registration of the SEC. Australian government is a privately owned company. Just ate. Well, I actually ate half an hour even anyway. Attached to the documents released under Freedom of Information Act, requests seeking access to all documents confirm that the following registration with the SEC of the Australian government, Commonwealth of Australia, it's not, okay? That's not the Commonwealth, it's a privately owned American company for that. So if you type in Commonwealth of Australia on Google, wait for it to load, it loads, you get the results, click on images, and you see the rat and the chook, and then on the right side you see the lion and the unicorn. If you go to Penrith Courthouse, right in front you see the lion and the unicorn. Okay, if you go to ACT, you won't see, you'll see the lion and the unicorn, but you'll see a different crown. So you've got to comprehend what's going on. So this is a privately owned company. Now these guys created these guys. Right, so this is Australian Business Register. Right, so a corporate. Where are we? The Australian Business Registrar. Okay, so a Corporation Act company is entitled to have a business number, a new tax system. Australian Business Number Act 1999. So it's a new one. But wait, it's under this system, right? It's under this bullshit system here. Now, what these guys do is these are a register for creating they register the names of businesses and issue a number, right? It says it here. Register your official business online. No, that's not it. Entity has a meaning given in Section 4 Australian Registrar. Okay, so Australian Business Registrar means the register established under Section 24 of the new listen to this, of the new tax system. It's not of a new tax system, it's called of the a new tax system. That's anyway, have a chill on that. Australian Business Number Act 1999. Now we know after 1986 John Howard created Bob Hawke created the Australia Act, which allowed this thing to be used. Alright, so now if we go to Australia Act, is basically turned Australia into a corporation. It didn't, it just fucking, they just brought this corporation in and lied to everyone. So this is Malacca v Chapman. Alright, so this is Aussie Stock Forums. ATO is not a legal entity by its own admission. By its own, if you're not a legal entity, you can't trade with me. You have to be a legal entity to trade with me. It's not legal under the old system. It's not legal under this fake system. It's not legal under this, and it's not legal under the old Lion and the Unicorn. Okay, now this ain't me making this shit up. This is a community Malacca v Chapman High Court case is often misunderstood or misrepresented. It concerned various taxpayers who argued among other. We're going to look at that. So this is their community. This isn't a legal statement. This is a community forum, right? Oh, hang on, I'll disconnect the internet. So go and look that up, right? So there's ATO legal advice, legal notice. This is a forum, right? So in order to be taxed by the ATO, you need to identify as you. Okay, this is why they changed the language. Okay, so YOU means IOU because Y turned into I, then it turned into J, right? So Jesus was Eos, was Yeshua. Okay, I'm studying the Lex. Hate saying that, but there are obviously going to be people who are going to be watching these clips they've never seen before. But pretty much any 200 people are watching my clips now because they're fucking shadow blocking the shit out of them. Someone puts up one of my clips on Facebook and it gets 2,500 shares and about 2,000 to 3,000 comments. So you do the numbers, you're looking at 2.5 million, right? You go to my YouTube channel, Freeman New South Wales, or type in Freeman New South Wales, go to Freeman. You'll see that basically 200 hits, 300 hits for the same clips. So I'm getting shadow blocked. So this is Aussie Stock Forums. They're saying these are investors, right? Morning Mail, Scam Alert. Okay, no. See, this would be the biggest news on the planet, right? Why isn't this the biggest news on the planet? Right? Because the media are in on it, right? Why does Koshy fucking fill people's heads full of shit giving them tax advice, right? Why is that? So you've seen this. There's one listing here, two decent listings, right? Now this is all. It's concerned about misunderstood and misrepresented. We'll get to that in a sec. So this entity is registered in America, right? SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission in America. So let's go and look at this bit here. So the United States is a federal corporation. Federal means Roman, yeah? So operated out of Switzerland, right? Now we'll go here, and it'll tell you that a corporation is considered a vessel of the United States. The term vessel of the United States, as used in this title, means a vessel belonging to or in whole or part to the United States or any citizen thereof, or any corporation created by or under, as in Australia, and then registering to the laws of the United States through the SEC, or of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof. Now, they don't actually own anything. The United States doesn't actually own anything. All they own is the paper, and as long as you keep clinging to it, they've got you. It's like, ha ha, gotcha. You've got our paper. So we'll go here now, and we'll go to this one, and I'll just show you why this is happening. I'll just plug this in for a sec. I just got to turn my internet on and off all the time because whenever it's on and I do a clip, the video disappears for some reason. Imagine that. So if we come down here, it says trading with the Enemy Act 1970-1933. I'm going to go to these forums because they do all the extracts. This guy paints an awesome timeline. But trading with the Enemy Act used to say in 1917, this is the First World War, enemies are defined as other than citizens of the United States. So basically, the trading with the Enemy Act created enemies of everyone outside of the United States, right? So then what happened was they were invading all these countries and trying to steal all their markets. And then in 1933, March 1933, Chapter 106, Section 5, Subdivision B of the Trading with the Enemy Act, which is printed back in 1917, October 6, 1917, that section was amended as follows. Any person within the United States is considered an enemy. So the enemy is defined as any person within the United States. So you wonder why the cops are beating everyone up in America and shooting them and carrying on pork chops. It's under military law, okay? Because America didn't go bankrupt in 1933. It was engineered to look like it went bankrupt in 1933, and it was engineered by the bank, which is a breach of trust. It was engineered by the bankers, by the trading houses. Now think about the word house. House of Gavin, House of Rothschild. It was engineered by these trading houses. If you go to these arseholes, they're going to screw you. So now we know why the government is selling off all your farms, because they're registered to the SEC, which means they're considered a vessel of the United States. The term vessel of the United States, is, as used in this title, means a vessel belonging to in whole or part to the United States, right? Basically, as used in this title, means a vessel belonging to, in whole or in part, to the United States, or any citizen or any corporation created under the laws of the United States, or any state, territory, district, or possession. So that means that the Commonwealth of Australia is a vessel of the United States. It's a corporation, it's a citizen, it's a territory, it's a district, or it's a possession. Yeah, that's copyright. So this entity here that everyone's registered to then vicariously becomes the property of this entity here. Not really, but that's how they work it. And they did it by faking the stuff like this. Now you're probably thinking, well, he keeps talking about Moliker, and this whole thing is about Moliker v. Chapman, right? Now I'll explain why. So the ABR was created in 1999. Now let's go to the actual, just disconnect the net again and check this, we're still going alright. So now we'll go to the actual what things are. And in the what things are list, we'll go to the transcript. This is a very nice transcript. I love this transcript, right? So this is ATO is not a legal entity case document, right? LibreOffice. Mylocka v. Chapman. I forgive the layout. It's just Libre. It's a bit strange. Libre's like Microsoft Office. Mylocka v. Chapman, 2000, High Court of Australia, transcript 242, 17th May 2000, right? So, in the High Court of Australia, Office of the Registrar of Brisbane, and these are about 20 cases. They've been, imagine a box of apples, each apple is a case, and they've just all been lumbered together, right? So, we'll scramble down the bottom here, and then you've got between Mylocka, the plaintiff, and Stephen Chapman, the defendant, right? So, Stephen Chapman is the Deputy Chief Commissioner, right? Summonses to strike out statements of claim. So Mylocka is trying to strike out these guys' statements of claim, and then it goes on to transcript proceedings, copyright. Oh, that's right. So see this is me giving the big finger. Right? You can jam your copyright up your ass. So basically, it's between. This says Mylocka transcript of Mylocka v. Chapman, but it's got all these other cases there because they're all as a bundle, and basically this is the transcript of just these two, right? These two right here. So I'm going to scroll down, and he's just reading out the matters, right? I'll hold it, you can read it. Now I'm going to do the whole document, alright? I'm not going to read the whole document. And so you have His Honour Mr. Logan and Mr. Fitzgibbon. His Honour Mr. Fitzgibbon, one of your points, it seems to me to be, is in the material is no statute has been passed since. Gee, I'm going to have one of these days where I can't read. Mr. Fitzgibbon, one of your points, it seems to me, in the material is, no statute that has been passed since, was it 1931, has any validity. Is that effectively one of your submissions? That relates to, Your Honour, to the two individual writs. Okay, so they're talking about this case. Those two matters, I have surmised what this submission is. Well, I am appointed under statute. What is the point of applying to me? According to you, nothing that I would do would have any validity anyway. That's not quite correct. Now, this is code for co means two. You know, when you erect something, there's two R's there. There's one man and another. So it's a contract between two men, right? And it's erect. You know, you're maintaining the structure, right? So it's correct as code. And His Honour says not quite right, so we're just confirming it. And then Mr. Fitzgibbon confirms not quite correct. Okay, so Mr. Fitzgibbon is for Mylocka, Mr. Logan is for the ATO. So now Mr. Fitzgibbon has just tainted himself by saying, I'm not going to make a clear and cut statement, I'm just going to pick apart the ATO and we'll just ignore everything else, which is what they basically do. So you can stop, look at this, just slow it down to 2.5 times, you can read it yourself, right? Okay, so this is I'll just read the sentence before it. This is one that the company is not in liquidation, not now. This is His Honour. Now, but now the relief that is sought is a relief nonetheless sought by a natural person, director of the company. Oh, sorry, this is fuck it. I'll just go for the whole. I'll just flick through because I don't spend all day on this. Essentially, by virtue of the Income Tax Act, they are guarantors to a corporation. So I take a wider view then. This gets good really quick, right? So, Mr. Logan, that highlights with respect to Your Honour the endeavour that is made here is because in terms of prayer for relief, His Honour has already looked at paragraph 2. No, that's not it. His Honour, so there are no facts. Mr. Logan, there are no facts. His Honour, winding up orders, been set aside, restitution, raise a question, something about legality in the future. Legality or illegal. Okay, so I might read that. Then if you look at 3, in the event of a winding up order or orders being set aside, that in an order for full restitution, well, again, that raises the same sort of question about something that may or may not occur legally or illegally in the future. There are no facts. Exactly. Then the costs. Then what about Orders 5 through a declaration? It's talking about mechanics. The Australian Taxation Office is a body without a legal persona, right? So it might be a body, but it can't operate legally within Australia. But the Australian Tax Office is not a party to this litigation. Okay, so what happens is the ATO is like a corporation. Corporations can't be sued, only the managing director, right, or the chief financial officer or whoever. So what happens is, in order for the ATO to be a legal person, they have to have been proclamated correctly in a correct trust fiduciary manner, where they follow the rules of the constitution of the foundation or the country or the kingdom or whatever it is. So whenever you start an organisation, you have to have a mission statement, right? And you have to have a set of rules that allow for the mechanism, the mission statement, to work. So the act that was used to create the Australian Taxation Office was not validly proclamated. Now, the act used to create the Deputy Tax Commissioner was also not correctly proclamated. It wasn't correctly proclamated. The oaths to create it were not correct, and were not right, and therefore the Australian Taxation Office is a body without a legal person. So it does exist. It does exist, and the reason why it does exist is because it's registered here. Right? It's registered here. It's registered on the SEC. It's registered in America. It's not allowed to operate in Australia. So when you get these assholes and they go, Decoding the Matrix is a good one. Look him up on YouTube. He's quite well spoken. He's quite well read. He's either a Freemason, magistrate, or a member of the bar. He basically says that you can't say they're illegal. They're just not a legal entity. They're legal in America, right? They have no authority, no jurisdiction inside the Commonwealth of Australia, right? This thing here is a fiction, right? So they can't operate inside the Commonwealth of Australia, right? The line in the unicorn, all that kind of stuff, the geographical boundary of Australia, they can't operate in it. And so what they did was they tricked everyone into thinking that if you go back to the Bible, which is correct English, right, for that time, and this time, they tricked ye, thine, thee, into being you and your. What now? You comes from IOU, which means I'll write you out an IOU. I owe you money. Excuse me, I got hiccups. Pastor's coming back up. No, it's not. Just been indigestion. So IOU means a debt, and thank you means the bank I owe you. Yeah, they just took off the B. The bank, THANKYOU. The bank I owe you. So they bled it into your language, because what they do is they take control by never upsetting you. They have to tell you what you want to hear. They have to create a situation, so then they come in and they fix it. And it always means a restriction of your movement, a restriction of your thought, and a restriction of your money. And in this case, a restriction of your ability to keep your sweat equity in your pocket, which is your money. And how they did it was they got rid of our money and they brought in private Federal Reserve notes. Private Federal Reserve notes are printed by a offshore entity, these guys, and they tell you you have to use them, and they stick guns in your face and shoot you, if you try and steal their paper, or it's bullshit. We have the authority to write our own bills. In fact, we have the authority to write our own credits, because our sweat equity, it's the only thing on the planet that can't be replicated. Our sweat equity can't be replicated on this planet, and they can't make their paper worth anything unless we accept it. So when you understand those two mechanisms, you basically go and work for Fred and go, Fred, I work for you 70 hours this week. We've agreed on the amount, $115 an hour. So I'm going to write this out. This is a credit. You're giving me this credit, and I've given you my energy. And he says, that's fair enough. And then you write out $115 an hour times how many hours people go, you're not worth that much, Joe, you're a fucking idiot. Well, no, I used to charge it and more, up to $200 an hour if I was using plasma cutters and stuff like that and doing pressure welding. And so what happens is you write it out and effectively he signs off on it, then you sign off on it, and you get a third party witness. You take it down to it might be a couple of old fellas sitting on the corner, three wise men, fucking, hey Gary, Fred, you just work for a dick, call them up, yep, done, certified, and you got paid that day. You do it on the way home. There's always three old fellas, they confirm, yep, all good, and you just created money, right? Now you've got a credit system, not a debt system, where you're not bound to anyone. This is why the wars were started. This is why they put their faces and names on the money, because they're saying everything you buy with it is their property, right? So that's and effectively, if you got 5 people, they all make $20 a week. They go down to the publican because they're all idiots, and they drink their money away buying meals and everything. And then he collects $100, and then through the week he gets the plumber, the electrician, the prostitute, the butcher, and the baker to give him a bit of service during the week. And then so he started out with 100, he gave them all $20 during the week, and then basically that was their pay, and then they come back and give it to him at the end of the week. Now, transferring of paper between hands, this entity over in America reckons that Barney, Fred, Wilma, Bam Bam, Pebbles and Dino all have to fork out 30%. How's that for a crackerjack fucking scam? 30%. And then they tell you, it goes towards roads. No, it doesn't. Your petrol tax goes towards roads. Guess what? No, it doesn't. A small percentage of it does. Then they tell you, your registration goes towards roads. No, it doesn't. A small percentage of it goes towards roads. Right? Your income tax does not go towards roads. Okay? All these charges and fees that you hand out every time you scratch your ass, that goes towards the roads. And these fuckers had siphoned out $18 trillion out of this country, $18,000 sweat equity credits out of this country to a tax haven in America called Delaware. Okay, this is all engineered by the king and his merchants. They drugged you, they drugged the water, you're drugging your kids because you're fucking idiots. Right? I've got no fucking sympathy for fucking people doing this shit. My ex is doing it right now. I know she is. She's fucking fried. Right? They're just fucking idiots. Go and find yourself a nice dark fucking Kiwi, you stupid cunt. She wrote that one of her fucking little fantasy novels. So here we go. So sorry about the colourful language. I know this is going to the public, the dead. Alright, so the SEC, right, is in America, and so essentially what's going on is the ATO it's legal in America. It's registered in America, right? But it's not here. The Commonwealth of Australia, it's registered in America, but it's not here. Right? We don't have a system here. They threw it out and brought this shit in, and so you've still got all the old acts on their books, right? And what they did was they basically went, we'll change all the logos, adopt all the acts, and then slowly over time they just delete them. And so you notice in the 80s they removed the word rape. In the 70s and 80s they had to remove the word rape so that all the magistrates could go and rape little boys and girls. Right? So so they could rape your wife by putting plastic inside her mouth and then say she's committed a crime. Crime means a charge, and then they send you to debtor's prison. Right? Prison back in the 1920s was called a debtor's prison. Right? They didn't call it prison, it was a debtor's prison. You have a debt, and that falls in with debt, charge, crime, the whole lot. So I'll get rid of this crap, and I'll go back to this crap. So this explains that the Australian Tax Office is a body without a legal persona. Right? It's not legal in Australia. It's legal in America, it's registered in America, just like the Commonwealth of Australia is registered in America, but it has no authority here on the geographical landmass that we call Terra Australis, right? Now, all of their claims are basically fraudulent because Terra Nullius, Terra is Earth, Ra is Sun, and Null is No, and I, you, and us is we. Right? We are Nobis, right? They are the fucking mucus, yeah? Right, Mr. Logan, the Australian Taxation Office is not a legal personality. So he's making a statement and he turns it into a question. Right, Mr. Logan, the Australian Taxation Office is not a legal personality, is it? Mr. Logan, this is the representative. This is the representative for the fucking ATO. It is not. It is not mentioned in the Act, is it? It is not a legal personality. Is it mentioned anywhere in the Act, the office? Mr. Logan, no, it is not. I think I can say that with some. It's a big act to read, but I cannot. So this guy basically said, it's a big act to read. I haven't read it all. This guy just fucking basically said, nah, I couldn't be fucked. I was too busy eating my play lunch. Right? All rights reserved. Sorry. It's a program in my head. All rights reserved. Alright, I might hear from you now. I will come back to Mr. Logan. Mr. Fitzgibbon, can you draw my attention to any section of the Income Assessment Act or any of the associated legislation which refers to Australian Taxation Office? And waffle. So, let's keep going down. His Honour, that does not matter. Okay, so no, it does not. But the problem, you got to read the I can't be fucked, right? I'm just going to read this. These are just good bits, right? That's all you need to know. That does not matter if, in fact, the Australian Taxation Office. I shouldn't have eaten a big meal, so I want to go and lie down now. That does not matter if, in fact, the Australian Taxation Office is not a legal personality. There is no point and no efficacy in the court making a declaration in the respect of it, because it's not legal, so he can't rule over it, and it can't make a claim. Now, what is the document you say that was taken out, to use your language, in the name of the Australian Taxation Office? Which document? Your Honour, I would like to reserve. I would have to reserve that position. So, in other words, give me a chance to scratch my ass. You can see that there is no point in making any declaration in respect of any factual situation which just does not exist. It is not pleaded. It cannot be pleaded and does not exist. The ATO does not fucking exist financially, legally in Australia. And I'll tell you what they do. They go, aren't you a taxpayer? So that's to a taxpayer. And you go, well, look, I went to my doctor, and my doctor said, I'm a biological man. Right? I'm part of mankind. I'm not a human. I'm not a person. I can only be a man. Right? But those other words I said, they're a fiction. They're titles, right? So you can say that man is a fiction, but man is reflected in reality. It's a name we give to a physical thing. You can only be one thing, right? There's no duality. So you're not a taxpayer. And then then I'll say, well, I would short circuit that. I'll go, well, how can I be you? So, aren't you a taxpayer? And I go, well, how can I be you? None of your documentation says me. It says my name at the top, but it's written incorrectly as a corporation, commercial term, trading name, or proprietary name. I'm not in any of those three. And I can't be you because obviously I'm not you. And you keep using the word you when you're talking to me. See the difference? They're two different words, you and me, different. And if you turn me upside down, it's we. So me is dead and we, right? W is life, M is the sea, okay? So you go to the Bible, water is signifies life, the sea signifies death, okay? So W is life, M is death, right? This is how allegory works. This is how, it's the language, it's the meaning the author was trying to convey, but it's not actually written. Okay, this is how language works, but you didn't pay attention. So you're not a taxpayer, and then they'll hit you with the next one. They hit you with like a threefold spell. Okay, so, but don't you want to pay tax to pay for all the roads? Well, what they do is they've got a system where they fucking plunder the shit out of your estate, and the more they plunder it, the more paper they create, the more they sell, which adds value to the estate, which is fiction. It's just all bullshit, right? You should be creating the paper. It should be called a credit, and you should be floating it on your own system that you control and not them. Right? But they don't want you to do that. They want to knock you off. Right? So we've established we've established that Dine is not a you, and Dine is not a taxpayer, and Dine doesn't want to pay tax because it doesn't do anything except go to an American-owned company. That's where it goes. It doesn't go towards roads, doesn't go towards anything. Now then what happens is This entity here that Scott Morrison works for, now think about Scott Morrison, he's a D Malay Freemason, his two best mates are pedophiles. Malcolm Turnbull worked for not Goldman Sachs, starts with an L, Lehman Brothers, worth $250 million, but he decides to work for Australia because he's such a nice bloke, given that he's lived most of his life in America, and then sells all of Australia to China, and then his son marries a Chinese diplomatic bloodline. Kevin Rudd's daughter marries a Chinese diplomatic bloodline, and then Rupert Murdoch's wife is Chinese as well, right? So they're establishing all these contracts, right? Because it's like the Jews say, when Rothschild said to Aaron Russo, "Why do you care about what happens to them? Why do you care about what happens to them? Well, what happens when them are dead? What happens when them are dead? Why do they set up? Where'd it go? It disappeared. Yeah, it was New South Wales. This is 4G, right? Like I said before. Why is there 5G intensively in only these few areas? What's going on in these few areas? So effectively, what you can look at now is these areas, are these going to turn into cancer hotspots, right? Now, why does Glenmore Park has one on the freeway, it has one across the road, it has one out the back of Orchard Hills, has another one right here, then it has a massive one right here actually, and then you go to Kingswood, and then there's the hospitals laced with them. And then when you look out from Kingswood, there's one at Corrine Avenue, one at St Dom's, another one at the other side of St Dom's. So they're absolutely frying the kids. Like, you got two towers that are so big, they're the biggest towers I've ever seen, and they're at each end of the school, right? And then you got, this is where all the Pobbos live, right? And through here a lot of Pobbos. I mean, some not fairly well-to-do areas here, but it looks like I'm out of the mix. I'm about here, right? So yeah, I'm just outside it, but I can hear it. It's like a fucking buzz. So effectively, the money doesn't stay in Australia, it goes to this entity, right? And where are they based? They're registered in America. It's getting siphoned out of the country. So, apologise, I do go off tangents a bit. So you can see there's no point in making a declaration in respect of a factual situation which does not exist. It is not pleaded, it cannot be pleaded, and does not exist. The ATO does not exist. The ATO is legal in America, it's not legal here. It doesn't exist here, it can't trade here, it can't threaten you, it can't do anything, right? Now the next clip I'm going to release is going to, if it doesn't go viral, I don't know what will. Alright, scroll down. If the Australian Taxation Office does not exist, and this was me saying it before, now it's him saying it, right? If the Australian Taxation Office does not exist legally, and the Deputy Commissioner is not validly appointed, which means he doesn't exist legally, all who sail in her or with her, it would have to be said that they are in some doubt. Yeah, I'm just putting said in there. It would have to be in some doubt. Right? Yes, it is. Alright? This is the barrister for the ATO. I've got to go through this, but they also won't define income tax. Now, I don't know if it was in this case, but I've heard it said, and I've read through here. If you go back to scripture, because the Bible wasn't written back 2,000 years ago. I'm sorry to fucking hurt any people to the brains. Okay, the Bible that you read in English, it was written 600 years ago. Okay, and it was written in such a way that 60%. I reckon as high as 80% of the people listening wouldn't be able to read it, and it's just fucking a couple of letters changed, right? And unless you really wanted to work it out, you would just, I can't read this. It just do my head in. So, even now, now that I know about the Langu, I'm struggling to read it as well, because your brain's got to read it in two different ways. Yes, and so much is admitted on pleadings in the defence that So, yes, and so much is admitted on pleadings in the defence that the ATO is not a legal entity, okay? But also, it is factually incorrect to say that the non-existent legal personality. But also, I'll just highlight that. But also, it is factually incorrect to say that the non-existent legal personality, and that's right, yeah. So yes, so much is admitted on pleadings that that in the defence that the Australian taxation is not a legal personality, but is also factually incorrect to. But also, it is factually incorrect to say that the non-existent legal personality. And then he says that's right. But also, it's factually incorrect to say that the non-existent legal personality is not a legal entity, and because that's what he said here, right? So, yes, and so much is admitted on the pleadings in the defence that the Australian Taxation Office is not a legal entity, but also it is factually incorrect to say that the non-existent legal personality is also not a legal entity, and that's right. So that's what if anyone begs to differ, please beg to differ. So we've established that the ATO is not a legal personality, it's not a legal entity, which means it can't transact here in Australia, okay? It can't transact with anyone here in Australia. Now, if you believe you're a public, then you keep dealing with the ATO and you keep paying them, right? If you get a letter from the ATO, give me a buzz and I'll help you out with them, right? Now, I've been told that's going to war. They'll kill you if you don't sign their paperwork. Right? They killed me when they took my fucking son away from me and got in that fucking cunt's head. Right? To turn... They created the enmity through threat and fear based on fiction. Right? They fucking tortured my dim-witted fucking cunt of a missus, and I say it now because she is. She actually said to me, "You're going to hate me by the time this is over." And I said to her, "Anna, why would I hate you? You're the mother of my son and my daughter." And at that time I was talking to her, everything was still cool, she wanted to split up, and I was just fucking whatever. And she said, "You keep getting into arguments." And it's like, I'm on a construction site for every day. I'd average fucking every day of my life for the last fucking 7 years, I was on a different site. Because I get jobs that last a month, but then I do 3 jobs in one day for 2 months. So you get what I'm trying to say. So on average, and the amount of people I come in contact with, fucking not a problem. And I have a fucking couple of dramas on site, and then the cops go, "Oh, you just got to keep me mouth shut." And I go, "What are you on about, cunt?" I was standing there talking to his brother, and the fucking dumbass starts going off me, and he's yelling at me, then he's yelling at his brother, and he's going at his brother. Just tell him to calm down. And so, long story short, what was happening was the brother was trying to get me to do the welding because the local fucking camel jockey that they get from the fucking Camel Jockey Society couldn't rub his 2 fingers together to pick his nose. You know, like fucking, I got in and I did fucking, I used like a 32-ton excavator, right, in terms of fucking welding, and these idiots come in with fucking bobcats and try and do the same fucking thing. You know, using flux core on site. If you're going to move every 5 metres, every 5 minutes, then stick welding is just as fast, right? Use a formula rod. If you've got the fucking power supply, you can just burn it in, it won't be as pretty, fucking, you can get it done. The different applications, right? So I'd get in there, I did this job, and the smart one of the family decided to say, fucking, we'll get you on the next job. And I wasn't even working for them, I was working for the builder. And what happened was the younger brother, it was his mate that they used to get to do the welding, and the older brother who runs the company didn't want to do it. And so, but once the younger brother picked a fight, then it was like, we all back each other up. It was bizarre, right? It was absolutely, and then the builder comes down and he says, "I can't afford to have the cops turn up on site." I said, "No, fuck that." This is back when I still sort of believed that they were sort of fucking, yeah, they're cunts, but they're surreal. And then he goes, "Name your price." I said, "I'm not here for money, man. I just got fucking smacked in the head, and let's be honest, fucking, if it was a decent fight, I would be getting hit in the back of the head with a claw hammer. And you're not doing anything to stop it." He goes, "I need these guys for the next site." So you can get fucking anyone you want. He goes, "Oh no, these guys." I said, I said, I'll give you my brother's fucking contract because they come in and do it in a quarter of the fucking time. He goes, yeah, but these guys are cheap. I said, so now you fucking... It was just like, it was like talking to fuckwit. But the guy was a white fella, you know, proper white fella. And yeah, that was basically it. Cops did fucking nothing. And then they said, I attacked 5 Lebanese guys all over 110 kilos. It was pretty funny, eh? Like, we got 5 witnesses. I said, what about the New South Wales police are the biggest bunch of lying fucking morons on the planet, right? And they deserve everything. Whenever a cop gets shot or stabbed or whatever, it makes me smile, right? There's no when you're a pedophile and something happens to you, and it always does, and you see him like copper down the street, he's 140 kilos, his son's retarded, fucking Down syndrome because he got him immunised and all kinds of stupid shit. I just got no fucking... The one up the road who set me up to get bricked in the back of the head. I'm not going to say too much, but karma has a way of sorting shit out, right? People say, well, look what happened to you. Well, no, I'm fucking doing this so this doesn't happen to anyone else, right? I get fucking Freemason handlers telling me, just go into court, Joe is the executor, we know how to fucking beat him in court. And I was like, oh, I don't want to play your fucking system, cunt. Alright? I'm just fucking over their fucking shit, right? So, effectively, what was going on, I had 2 notaries trying to get me to go and commit serious felonies. So they're trying to get me into the system so they can have me knocked off inside jail. And, you know, Rob, I'm not going to say too much, but Rob Wallace from the Gloucester channel was actually there while the conversations were going on. So, it's the most bizarre fucking system. I mean, you see got movies about where the guy's fucking worried about the government, he's got tinfoil hats on. I mean, they were making movies about this back in the fucking 80s, where the guy's, you know, Mel Gibson, where he's got the fucking, the books stacked up on the walls and the alfoil all over the walls, because they use fucking 2-way transmitters, set them up house across the road and just fucking zap you overnight. Right, you're sitting there going, you can't... If I go back to this map, right, if they're zapping cunts in these areas, think about it, right? They're zapping them, right? Why does it always go here? Excuse me. So they're zapping, look, Cranebrook, right? A lot of houses, not a real wealthy area, but then you jump across the road and it's fucking all, you know, $3 million properties, right? Same all through here, right? Poor area, poor. I'm not saying poor, but you know, got fucking lot of high density housing. I mean, fuck knows what would be out here out at Eastern Creek. There's nothing out there. But these aren't wealthy areas, and it's like they're trying to. It's almost like, I mean, Kellyville, I don't know what would be there, but it's like they're targeting the poor areas, the non-wealthy areas to supply like little hubs. There's a hospital there, so all the fucking, because people are sorting out cancer out. I mean, I didn't go to a fucking doctor to have this tumour removed off my face. I started eating cannabis, making my own little potion up, and doing fasting and using black salve, and the thing's almost gone. I mean, I did a 46 and a half hour. I didn't want to eat at 12 o'clock at night, otherwise I wouldn't have gone to bed that night from all the carbs. But I did a 48-hour fast the other night, and I was drinking a cup of tea every hour, and I was pissing fucking custard. And I don't mean custard as in like custard, but you know, I was pissing yellow, and it was like I'd totally dehydrated, but I was drinking so much. And I jumped online and I found this woman was doing a 19-day fast, and the day before she'd only just started to piss dark, so her system must have been really clean, you know, fucking, or mine just decided, went fuck, work straight away. 24 hours, I think I was dying, but I wasn't. I had a bad night's sleep, and had a bit of a rash, and not a rash, but a itchy side of the head, and effectively the next day I was just pissing really dark, and that's a apparently you put out 300% more human growth hormone. You go into autography, which is where your body just gets rid of all the dead tissue, all the damaged, and the whole time you're thinking, oh, I'd love a feed, but it's just, all it is just your stomach telling you love a feed. I was sitting there and thinking, fuck, I could run 20 Ks. Like, I've still got fucking fat around my waist, you know, I've still got I haven't changed, I feel better. Skin looks better on my head, which is good, because that was dying ass. But this is what they're doing, they're just zapping these areas right? Zapping these areas, and trying to bring in 5G. You know, I just want to go here, right? These are all the places that ban 5G. Santa Barbara, Switzerland, Brussels, Byron Shire, Murwillumbah, and this is all based on science. You can't stop it legally unless it's based on science. So I just want to show this as well, and this is on the back of my Lockerbie Chapman. Actually, I'll just finish off my Lockerbie Chapman and I'll show you that. So effectively, they registered a company in America, they brought it to Australia, they created a fake position called the Deputy Tax Commissioner, and every time the ATO sues someone, it's the Deputy Tax Commissioner in his private capacity, supposedly working for the ATO, because this is a privately owned company. It's private. It's a private company, right? And so they trick you into trading with them. That's all it is. They trick you under threat and duress, and the courts enforce it because they're in on it, right? You applied for a tax file number. If I go to a business today and they won't give me some work or anything like that, and I mention this, and they go, look, we don't care. Okay, so it's not no liability against you guys, but if you write down that you won't allow me to work and eat unless I have a tax file number, and you're forcing me to have a tax file number, otherwise I'm going to starve. And they'll say, well, no, we're not forcing. No, we'll say, I need to work and I need to eat, and you're willing to give me work, but you won't give me work if I don't have a tax file number. So that's all I want you to say. There's no comebacks on you. I love you. You give me work, and they say yes, and you write that down. Now these guys are fucking liable. Okay. Now these guys are liable because they're fucking harming you. Right? They're forcing a third party that you contract with them. That's bonded slavery. They can't fucking do it. Right? A third party can't force someone you want to have a contract with into giving away 30% of what you own for no reason. It's all based on fiction. The courts are in on it. Why do you think there's a lockdown, right? Now, I want to go and show you why there's a lockdown. Right? This is why there's a lockdown. It's all financial. It's got nothing else. If you agree you're the public, I'll go to my page. I thought that was my page. No, I don't have 4,000 friends. Oh, we've got to plug in. Oh, damn it. Sorry about this. I'll just wait for it to load. Yeah, after they installed it, Frank Clegg, wireless is not safe. I made lots of money rolling it out though. I'm out now. Take an axe to this cunt and chop his fucking head off. That's how they work. That's how the dental association works. Oh, we don't do that anymore. But hang on, for the last 10 years I was telling you it's fucking not safe based on science, and now you're telling me that you just don't do it anymore. Where's the liability? Fucking hope there's liability. Okay, so this is really well worded. This is, might make one correction. 5G rejected Northern Rivers. Power of an awoke community, right? If you're not yet aware on the oxygen utilisation impact respiratory system 5G has on the human body, now would be a good time to listen. Okay, so oxygen's in the air, right? It makes up 19% or 21% of your air, right? It comes from trees. No, it doesn't. It comes from the ocean. Trees breathe out oxygen. They also breathe out carbon dioxide. Depends on whether it's day or night. Trees make it out of carbon dioxide. No, carbon dioxide is 66% oxygen. Okay, carbon dioxide is 66% oxygen. Trees need 7 parts carbon dioxide to 2 parts oxygen to make sugars to grow green matter, which is the tree. This part's good. Everything else is legit, right? So it's 2 oxygen molecules, and they are shared. It has 2 oxygen molecules, and they share electrons, right? So it's a circle here. So the circle comes over that line. Circle here comes over that line, and it's like the little, it's like a fish, right? Shape. When you hit oxygen molecules at 6 gigahertz millimeter waves, it affects the orbital properties of the electrons of the oxygen molecules. The 60 gigahertz range is known as the oxygen absorption band. So imagine you got a bicycle wheel there, right? It's just sitting there, and you try and grab the wheel. You can grab the wheel. It's just sitting there. Try spinning it at 60 k's an hour. You try and grab the wheel, it's going to throw your hand off, right? it's just going to spit your hand off. So that's an analogy, right? It's to give you a mental picture, right? So when the oxygen comes through and into the lungs and the alveoli and all that kind of stuff, and you've got the hemoglobin there trying to grab the oxygen, it can't absorb the oxygen, right? At 60 gigahertz, 98% of electromagnetic energy is absorbed by oxygen. When 5G reaches the frequency band of 60 gigahertz, the ability for a person's blood hemoglobin to bind with the oxygen is hindered. That's probably the best wording I've seen, right? Just that section there. Right, so 60 gigahertz oxygen is absorbable by RF radiation at 60 gigahertz. It's absorbed into the oxygen molecule. It charges it. It affects its it affects the molecules, the electrons on the outside of the molecule, and it affects the hemoglobin's ability to bind to the oxygen. And that's why this shutdown is being set up, right? I mean, this is Canberra. Look at the footprint in Canberra, for God's sake. And these are all the people in Canberra, right? This is the majority of the population out there, except for around here. This is probably all the MPs, right? So the effects are massive, right? And so if they get you out of the public and the public realm for 30 days, and they run the economy down, and they keep throwing out debt, they get you into debt and the Federal Reserve notes, they bankrupt this entity, right? They bankrupt this entity, and then they put Australia, or the people within the fiction, into a bankrupt cycle for another 70 years. They're trying to put you into slavery for another 70 years. Nation. Now, DE means no, U, Te, no earth, right? And then RO is king, right? RO, Ungroi, Ungfoi. N is, I won't go into N, and then, because no one will believe me. And O and Y is a condition, so the mind. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Raha! Ship! A ship! Ship ahoy! Ship ahoy! The term vessel of the United States, as used in the term, means a vessel, ship, in whole or part, to the United States or any citizen thereof, corporation created by or under the laws of the United States territory. Yeah. So, with ships by way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there shall ye be sold unto your enemies for bondsmen. They're telling you, the courts, the bankers, they're your enemies, but you won't fucking wake up. For enemies for bondsmen and bondswomen, and no man shall buy you. And no man shall buy you. Right? So they're telling you, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Right? Ships. They tricked you and think you're one of their fictions. Right? It's a ship. Right? They went to war with you. Right? That's why America was invading all these South American countries. Right? Espionage, the ABC, they're basically collecting data on you to use it against you, right? And then any person within, they changed it in 1933 and then they declared bankruptcy in 1950, right? So where is it? 1950. 1950 they declared bankruptcy. What last 70 years? What last 70 years? A nation is bankrupt. Alright. "70 years in Babylon." Come on, I'm just looking for the 70, for God's sake. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. What was Nebuchadnezzar? It was a ship. There you go. Spoke to people, Judah. And what's the ship that's captured you? It's the television, right? And what's a television? Tell lie. It's not a lie, right? It's a ship. Tell ship vision. Yeah. Ship lies in birth. That's where the word comes from. Where's 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, stop, 70. There we go. And the sound of the grinding millstones will not be heard anymore, and lamps will not be lit anymore. The whole country will become dry and empty, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. Right? And there's your 70 years. Right, 70-year cycle for nations, and they declared bankruptcy, United States, in 1950, right? And the Secretary of Treasury is appointed as a receiver in the bankruptcy. So the Secretary of the Treasury is the highest position, yeah, in America. The president just runs it, but this is the receiver. Right, and 70 plus 50 is, well, that's 2020. Right, and they're a corporator. Right, corporator. That's a member of a corporation aggregate. Right, so there you go. And these nations will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. Right, so Jeremiah, Jeremiah 25. Alright, so United States is a corporation because it's an administration. There you go, federal corporation. It's an administration, a commission, a board, department, basically seeing out a bankruptcy. There it is there, Jeremiah. The A.T.O, this is the government. The A.T.O cannot appear before the High Court of Australia as a party because it's not a legal entity. As the A.T.O admits, it's not a legal entity. It leaves taxation commissioner without a legal standing, and the commissioner, which is the people, and the government, which is the people, are being deceived by an action contrary to international and also Now this is Australian Patriot Movement, www.aph.gov.au. Now there was a submission into Parliament which used to come up here. So there was this pretty much read like this, and it was a submission to Parliament. And then you have this. Although the High Court accepted that the Australian Taxation Office is not a legal entity, so they're trying to spin it now, right? Trying to fucking spin it. So there you go. So the A.T.O is not a legal entity. Why are you paying tax to the A.T.O? Why are you listening to the Australian federal government? It's a privately owned company in America. They're claiming jurisdiction because you've signed up with them, and you got to terminate all contracts with these fuckwits, right? Because they're not a legal entity. Alright, and this is what they're doing here. This is what they're doing to you. That might not look like much, but that's all the Penrith right there. There's nothing down here. This is all park. All this population out here. It's like a new city has turned up on the back end of Penrith, right? And they're all away from the 5G. There's like there's some power lines that run along here, right? Everyone over here is getting nuked, and then the other side of the power lines is nothing. Right, that's it. I'll post this one right now.